Okay, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Cost, Blake, Marmee, and Labuda sitting in for Bub. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $2,392.55. The Stormwater Fund.
I guess I can address this. Our insurance fund desperately needs cash, and we recently received a rebate from workers' compensation, the amount of, I think it was $230,000. And what we decided to do with that was put it back where it came from, which is what we have to do, but then transfer it out of those funds into the insurance fund to get it some cash so it can continue to operate. So that would be sections 1 through 9, I believe. And all it's doing is just listing the various funds the money is going to be coming out of. I don't know if you want to address each one, but...
Okay, so...
Not section 4.
Yeah, it's not section 4. That's 100,000. Any of the OPTs, right? The OPT funds?
Yeah, the operating transfer funds. I don't know why 4 was stuck in the middle there.
6 is different. 6 is land.
6 is different also, yeah. Well, we'll have to address each one individually up here as far as a vote. So we'll first, I'll entertain a motion on the first $2,392.55.
Motion.
Motion by Labudas.
Second.
Second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through all these operatings. We'll skip the ones that are the land, okay? So the next one is the amount of $16,695.66.
Motion.
Motion by Labudas.
Second.
Second by Cost. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. The next amount is the amount of $35,122.25. Motion by Labudas. Second by Cost. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. The next amount is the amount of $220,000. Hold on. The 220?
Road at 5. Section 5.
Okay. Yes, that one also is. So, hold on. Let's say an OPT in here.
Steve, what was the total amount of money for it?
I wasn't going to address this tonight, so I didn't make a note of it, but I think it was $238,000.
What way over that?
Okay, is the 874.15 from the judicial fund? Is that part of it?
Lauren, do you remember what that refund was?
I don't know. They're usually 200 to 300,000.
Yeah, we got it quite a while ago. It was, I want to say 238.
Okay, so $874.15. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Cost.
Second.
Second by Labudas. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. is the $247,522.18.
I believe that's a general fund portion, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry I said 238,000, I misspoke. I'm not sure what it is. Like I said, I wasn't planning on addressing this tonight, so I didn't make notes on it.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
We need more information.
Yeah.
I believe it'd be either requesters or Jackie, if you can see Jackie's signature at the bottom. No,
Where is it? It's just-
it's the ones that Jackie put in. At the bottom, they're the OPTs. Which includes that 247,000 change for general fund. That's the biggest chunk of the workers' comp refund.
220 on section 5, 247 on section 8. $600,000.
No, the 220 is the land.
It says OPT.
I know, but that's still,
That just means it's going to be transferred.
yeah. That's for the 4th Street project. So the last one for this is the 200, oh, wait a minute. There's still $17,000. And that's from Jackie. That's not. Yeah, so we've got two more. We've got the 247,522 and the 17,747.
I've got $320,354.06 on those combined ones.
Okay.
320, 354.06.
Entertain a motion or not?
I'd like to have more information. Sorry.
What additional information do you want?
I'd like to know what the actual number was and what the actual numbers. The mayor just gave us the actual numbers.
We could bring a breakdown at council if you want to do it that way. I'm just trying to show you. Show it to you exactly.
When does this have to, this has to be done before the end of the year?
Yeah. Definitely. The insurance fund is going to run into a deficit. for
I'll
next
make a
billing.
motion for the 247,522.18.
I'll second.
Second by Labutus. Questions and or discussion? I'm going to say that I'm going to pass this forward so we can keep it rolling so it'll be done by the end of the year. The mayor's indicated he'll give us a complete breakdown of totals of all of it, and then we'll see each individual item. And so that's why I just need to keep it moving, because we only have one council meeting left at the end of the year. So,
Thank you.
any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. The last one is the amount of $17,747.27. I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second by Labutus. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. Okay, so let's go back on to the land. We have 3 land amounts, one for $220,000, one for $100,000, and one for $50,000. Roger?
These are just, this is for the 4th Street sewer separation project. This is I think it's 15 easements and 2 houses we're purchasing. to install the water, sewer, and storm lines. We've roughly divided it up by the amount of money that we believe is going to be stormwater money, sewer money, and water money. And so that's kind of how we got the numbers of 220, 100, and 50,000. So that's the different amounts of money we're spending percentage-wise over the whole project, at least in the cost estimates. So that's why they're divided up the way they are. And that's how we're then going to buy the easements and the properties for the project. So.
Motion.
So the first one's for $220,000, motion by Cost,
Second.
second by Labutus.
That was for 100,000. The first one.
That was 100.
Oh, the 100,000, yes, I'm sorry. Questions and/or discussion, Mr. Blake?
Mr. Chairman, Roger, do we have a, perhaps you've already provided this, do we have a list of what we're buying?
I've not provided that. I can get you a list of what we are purchasing. It's basically 2 houses down by the National Drive lift station. There's 2 houses on either side of the drive that we're purchasing because we got to get pipes through there, and basically it's going to be a couple years down there, and it's not really suitable to have people living down there while we're doing that, and we're probably going to damage the houses as we go through there. So we're buying those 2 houses. The rest of them are just small easements all the way up through here, all from the church all the way down. We got to buy some easements from the railroad, Eagle Machine, and then just some of these intersections. We've got small slivers there, and a number of them are small amounts. But I will say we purchased all this stuff through using ODOT specifications, so that everything's we've had a separate company come in and do that for us to negotiate the easements and stuff. So we're following all the rules required under ODOT. So
Could you email that to us if that's possible?
yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? For the record, Autumn, we need you to correct Section 4, account number 669-169-5501 versus the S501. Thank you. If no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. Land for $220,000. Is this you again, Roger? No, we have to vote on each of them. So, I mean, you've discussed them. So,
Right, same
entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Labutus, second by Cost. Questions or discussion? Autumn, on Section 5, the description should say land, not OPT. Please make that correction. No further questions or discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. I'll entertain a motion on the $50,000. Motion by Cost,
Second.
second by Labutus. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $300.
Yes, we had a light pole on Hudson Avenue hit. This is a check we received from an insurance company.
Motion.
Motion by Cost, second by Labutus. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a ordinance 19-39 to make an appropriation for the expenditures of the City of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2020 general fund.
It's our annual budget, starting with Ordinance 1939, the general fund legislation. It's pretty similar to last year's in a lot of ways. Any additions, there's some in the police department for some software licensing and some connections we're doing with the county to give them safer service, I guess, when they pull up on calls, to have some records management. It also, with a little bit of cost included there, was 7 new recruits that will be starting with us pretty soon. But I'm certainly here for any questions anybody might have.
Questions from anybody on the committee? Okay, so the total amount is on this one is $34,474,957, and it appears to be balanced. Is there an unappropriated balance somewhere or funds?
Yeah, there's about 30,000 in unappropriated right now. And then also, of course, we're collecting every day. We've got almost a month left here of collections. They'll add to that. Most recent report that came out, Barb just put it out for through November 30. We're about 4% plus up, which is a little healthier than the 11/15 one that was about 3.25% up. So all those dollars collected in that would go into unappropriated. A little bit of that was used to balance the budget, but we'll see what the unappropriated is on 12/31. So.
Okay. For those of you on the committee and also those other members of council, I have been in contact with Lori. We've gone back and forth. I asked her numerous questions on some different line items and things like that. They all had valid responses and reasons and justifications as far as the adjustments. Some of them were because of contractual things, such as sick leave conversion increases because there's more sick leave available there for an individual in a particular department. Healthcare, just individuals taking different healthcare plans or joining the plans. There were a few miscellaneous things, and it really wasn't a large dollar amount, but it was high enough percentages for me to kind of trigger me to look at a little bit further in detail. But it seems like office supplies are going up as far as cost. Not only that, the cost of us doing business, it seems like, and in particular the income tax department, because of the different things that the state are requiring, it's costing us more to do business. I mean, just mailings and things like that. Not only that, the good economy has caused a couple of things. One thing is that we have more businesses in the area, so we have a lot more expenditures when we have to do reimbursements and things like that, which is good news. Unfortunately, it also the EMS runs. We've seen those numbers increase as far as what we're paying out there, so that has ticked up on us slightly. But we're still generating some revenue from that too. We don't want to discard that. So even though it shows up as an expense as far as the fees that we pay, our revenue is increasing, which we're putting in different areas in the city, and we have that legislated where that goes. So overall, I would say that this is a very healthy budget as far as making sure that we do have things pretty well covered. It's still thin, even though I say it's healthy. We're still tight, and we're keeping our belts tight and making sure that we're spending dollars where they should. I've seen, we've seen some differences for some savings in some particular areas. I think that the administration, and I hope that we continue to see some of those into the future. It always helps when we can reduce expenses by efficiencies. And those things are always great when we do find those areas. But overall, this general fund budget, I really liked it. I think that it was, it's one where we don't see huge increases in areas, and also it wasn't one like we've seen in the past where we've had some shockers of things that we had to pay for that we didn't have the year previous. It pretty much flowed with the previous year, which doesn't happen all that often, so it is good to see that. So I'll just add that as my 2 cents and my observations and my analysis of the budget. as a whole, but the general fund I really look at even closer than all the other ones too. So, any other questions?
I just might add to that, thank you. And Doug does look pretty intense into it in comparison to years, and we appreciate that. The general fund itself has nearly 500 separate line items in it, and it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of parts to that. I want to say kudos to all the departments. It starts there. They input their budgets electronically and push them up to us. Certainly in the auditor's office, Lori, especially, and Jackie and Steve and everybody in the auditor's office work hard. Lori spends a lot of time we do together getting that budget prepared. But it starts with those departments, and I will say, I believe in the 8 years I've been here, they've gotten very efficient, and we appreciate that in a lot of ways. We don't have to get as worried probably when the end of the year comes in, the last quarter sometimes. And when I took office, it was quite different than that. I kind of had a little bit of mentality to spend it or lose it, and we've kind of turned that around a little bit through the ways we operate. And so it shows in the carryover, the budget gets how much they save by not spending. This budget is very dynamic. It's just a point in time. Your first Finance Committee meeting in January will change this. And at least a line item probably in it, somewhere. So anytime we make some adjustments to that, it's a change, but it surely is a good practice to see how we can do for the next year. I want you to keep in mind we have money going into budget stabilization. This is presenting this without using budget stabilization money and presenting it without doing layoffs. And that's critical. 8 years in a row without having to do any layoffs, knock on wood, to balance budgets. In 2010, the city did lay off 11 people to balance a budget. So, we've lost about $2.4 million a year. So again, kudos to all the departments, all the directors, and everybody, all the 370 employees in the city, because they're doing a great job really grabbing a hold of the finances in a lot of ways. And the state, in the tax office, they've got some new software that they need. Now they're able to, the state collects net gains taxes for the businesses, but of course they do it at a fee that we have to give them. So, we're getting kind of probably a net difference. But Doug, you probably spelled it out right. When you do bring in more money, it also costs more money to bring that money in a little bit. So there is a cost, and it's over here in the tax office. But other than that, I want to thank everybody, and we're always here to answer questions. So if something creeps up between now and council, or next council, please let us know. We're happy to answer questions on the general fund.
Very good. Any additional questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Labutus, second by Cost. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. The next item is an ordinance to make the appropriation for the expenditure of the city of Newark, Ohio during the year ending December 31st, 2020, and this is the all others budget.
Yeah, just to kind of keep it in mind, there is one budget, but several years ago, divided into 3 sections. It makes it just a little easier to interpret. General fund, obviously we've discussed that, and that kind of is a pot of money that can be used for anything, but has obviously some very specific uses for it, police and fire and some things like that. But it is open-ended money that way. We're going to talk next on the grant budget after this. That's all grant stuff. So now this one we're talking about now is everything but falls in those first 2 categories. So it's going to be your water money, which is an enterprise fund that those funds have to be used for water type stuff, street funds, any funds that have a specific target to them. And if you look at any of the fund numbers, the general fund starts with 100. These will start with anything other than 100. So this all other will fluctuate up and down, and it depends on what projects really the engineering and the water department have going on, and many other things, but those are the big projects we have now. I do want you to keep in mind those are multi-year projects, so sometimes the same dollars are in multiple years. So you can't just add up all the expenses each year and say that's how much we've spent. This is a budget for spending. So something like 4th Street is starting next year. That'll be built into this budget. So for the next 3 years, be a little higher numbers in here because of that. But our infrastructure projects have been pretty strong in the last several years. So that drives this all-weather budget higher than it has been previous to that.
Any questions and or discussion? Yes, Mr. Cox.
Mayor, you just made reference to police and fire. Where do we find ourselves on contracts for police and fire and accident and
We're still talking with those. I can't get into details here in open council, but so far seems okay at this point. So I would have to go into executive session to talk exact details. But we're just waiting on some feedback and kind of working. It's hopefully should be something we can solve pretty soon. Put it that way.
Very good. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Labutus, second by Cost. Further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. And the last item on the agenda is Ordinance 1941, ordinance appropriating money for the expenditure of the City of Newark during the year ending December 31st, 2020, grant money.
As I had mentioned, these are grant budgets or grant funds, which are primarily consumed with the Economic and Community Development Department that Mark Motter oversees, and Kevin Sad's department down in adult probation is, and then of course we do have Barbara Gilks that applies for grants that goes through many things, including community development, but also police and fire. And so this will put all of them. We treat those kind of as separate little departments, each one of those grants, and track them separately because yes, they need to be, but it also is great bookkeeping on our side so we can see how those monies are expended. That varies depending on what grants we anticipate for the year. It's a lot of work to get to this, and kudos to the departments with that because they're based on whoever is giving us the grant can have a whole different fiscal year. It's a different fiscal year than our fiscal year, and then trying to see how it flushes out with our calendar fiscal year, it can get a little crazy. But this is the best projection of what pieces of these grants will be spent during the 2020 year.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Labutus.
Second.
Second by Cost. Further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And with that, this Finance Committee stands adjourned. Next up, I believe, is service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Blake, Lang, and Mr. Labutus, sitting in for Mr. Bub. Up first, we'll discuss ordinance number 1937, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property, generally described as 905 Hollander Street of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of GO General Office District to MFR, Multifamily Residence District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio. Mr. Moorhead.
Thank you. This is just an application that we received in the zoning office for changing the zoning to this property at 905 Hollander Street from the current property owner. They are looking at some sort of multifamily development and would need to have the multifamily residence district in that on their property to be able to do what they're planning to do.
So the process here is if we pass this through to full council, then it'll go to Planning Commission, they research it, make a recommendation, send that back to council, that comes back to us for a public hearing and second reading and
Correct.
so on and so forth. All right, any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? I have a motion to send this on to council.
Yeah, to Planning Commission.
Pardon?
Oh.
Planning.
I'm sorry, first reading at council, yes.
Yes.
Motion.
Motion by Labutus.
Second.
Seconded by Lang. Seeing no further questions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Up next, ordinance number 1938, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 595 Thornwood Drive, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of GB General Business District, GI General Industrial District, GO General Office District, MFC Multifamily Condo District, and MFR Multifamily Residence District, as shown in the attached Exhibit A, to GI General Industrial District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bowder.
I think you've all had a chance to look at the legislation in front of you, and one of those was that exhibit that was mentioned. It shows the property, the northern half of the property that currently has about 5 different zoning classifications that are mentioned in the legislation. Just read. I'm sorry?
6, actually. Who's counting?
Well, 5 on the northern half.
Right.
The 6 is the southern half, and the southern half is the GI. And just looking to get that property zoned entirely under the general industrial zoning classification. Property owners have an interested buyer, and their needs would require that to be general industrial. And so they're basically looking to have that changed back, because a few years back that entire property was originally general industrial. But the current owners had it changed to those other 5 on the northern half. So really we're just resorting back to the previous designation of all 80 acres at GI.
When was that original, when was the change from GI to the other 5? Do you know?
I don't know.
That was?
2005, I believe.
Okay. All right. Any questions for the committee?
Make a motion.
Motion by Lang,
Second.
seconded by Labutus. Any questions from the audience? Again, this will follow the same procedure as the previous. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That'll pass 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roder. Up next, resolution number 1987, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio, to accept bids and enter into contract subject to the appropriation of funds for construction of 4th Street separation project. Mr. Lewis, you have the floor.
Yeah, this is just the more standard legislation we go through to enter into a contract for this project, which we described 2 weeks ago at that committee. This is part of our long-term control plan. This is the 4th Street project. And this is just authorization for entering into contract once we have the bids and stuff. So, and then it'll be subject to the appropriation of the funds. So we've had legislation to enter into a loan agreement already, and the loan agreement is we're pending for January on this project, and then we'll do this, and then we'll appropriate the money, and then hopefully we'll get started here sometime in April or May, maybe, I don't know, something like that. So.
Sooner the better. Any questions from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Lang, seconded by Cost. Any questions from the audience? Seeing no questions, all those in favor of sending this on to council for a full vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Up next, resolution number 19-87, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio, to accept bids and enter into contract subject to the appropriation of funds for construction of the 4th Street separation project. Mr. Lewis, you still have the floor.
That should say for the construction of the Tamarack project, I believe.
I think you reread it.
Yes.
Yeah, you reread
I did, well,
it. Switch them. We should give you 287.
okay, let me reread that. I apologize. I got 2 of the same slips here. So, no, I got it right here. Yep, I still do paper. I'm old. What can I say? All right, now we'll consider resolution number 19-88, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio, to accept bids and enter into contracts subject to the appropriation of funds for construction of the Tamarack transmission line project.
Yeah, this is a water line project, and unlike the last project, which is part of a long-term control plan, and that last project will also be part of a compliance schedule we have from EPA, so that project will be required to get done. That's a requirement of EPA to do. This one is a water line project. This is basically running a water line, extending a water line from basically the end of Country Club Drive out Church Street, underneath Route 16, and up 40th Street, and tying into a line at Kaufman Road. This was part of a long-term plan we have for getting water supply out onto the west end of town. And this is mostly for fire protection out there, and getting fire protection in the industrial area and the hospital, and that gives us another way to get water out to the hospital in case we have a problem. It also gives a better fire flow out into the area of Ashland Marathon. We supply fire protection to Ashland Marathon tank farm out there, and so this was part of our long-term plan to get basically a transmission line from the water plant clear out to the west end of town. And so over the years, we've put one down Country Club, we put down one King, we come across King over through Shields, that kind of area. So this is kind of the end of this project. This is going to be about a $8.5 or $9 million project. So, and this is all through water funds. A small portion of it will be new storm lines and storm work on 40th Street, which is part of the Cherry Valley stuff. I think we had here a while back, we raised our storm rates to start taking care of some of the flooding issues in the Cherry Valley area. And this is kind of setting us up. We're going to do some work on 40th Street, which will then help get the work done out on Cherry Valley and the rest of that area. So this is kind of the backbone of that project as well. So, and this is just given the authorization to enter into contract for that and accept the bids. So.
Very good. Any questions from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Lang. Seconded by Cost. Questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this on to council, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. And that concludes the service committee. Up next will be capital improvements.
Okay, I'd like to call this committee meeting of the Personnel Committee. I'd like to call this meeting of the Personnel Committee to order. Those present are myself, Lang, Labutus, Rath, Hall, and Fennell. Up first, we've got Resolution 19-86, appropriating monies from the Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of Section 1,356,808.79. Mr. Moorhead.
Yes, this is just a memo appropriation. According to the auditor's office, this is for accounting purposes to show the expenses that we had through ODOT on our State Route 13D project, and it's basically to book the ODOT funds on through our accounting system. So. One other item, you might want to take a look at the legislation. The resolution number at the top says 19-68 as opposed to 86. I think it's just a typo.
Yeah, on the paperwork I've got here, I think it's been corrected to 86.
Okay.
But yeah, Autumn, if we could correct the resolution number in the packet to 19-86 rather than 68. Thank you. Any discussion from the committee? Motion by Rath. Second by Fennell. Any discussion from the audience? Okay, we've got a motion, and all those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Okay, up next we will consider Section 2. An appropriation from the Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $125,588.80.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you'll remember, a couple of years back, we came in and we had mentioned we had gotten a grant for some street department trucks. What this does is allows us to put it on the books for that. We've received the trucks and everything's in good working order.
Any discussion from the committee?
Motion.
Motion by Rath.
Second.
Second by Hall. Any discussion from the audience? All those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Capital Improvement Committee will stand adjourned. Up next is Personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I would like to call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Present are Mr. Fennell, singing from Mr. Bub, Mr. Marmee, Mr. Lang, myself, and Ms. Hall. We're going to discuss ordinance number 19-42, an ordinance amending the position classification, pay, and position authorization tables of the city of Newark by creating the position of administrative assistant within the Department of Mayor. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At first glance, it would look like we're creating a new position and we're going to raise the cost of doing business within the city of Newark. What we did is when I was appointed service director, the first day I walked in, we had 2 full-time employees and we had a temporary person there. We looked at the job responsibilities of the 2 full-time employees and we looked at the responsibilities of the temporary service person. We thought, okay, how can we have some gains in this area? So the first thing, working with Mike Buskirk, we eliminated the temporary help person that was there. And then through attrition, we had another member of our staff leave and go work somewhere else. So at that point, I reached out to Doug Marmee, and I reached out to the mayor, and I said, I think we can do things a little different here. And there might be an opportunity to save some money. So what we did is we took the planning commission responsibilities that was on that position. I worked with the council president, Mr. Ellington, and we had the council clerk take those responsibilities up, and she's done it. She's done a very good job. We got with the auditor's office and we asked them to take some of the responsibilities like the electric bills, gas bills, things of this nature that Tina Scott was paying, and the auditor's office said, gosh, we can take those in, we can pay those. And then we took the towing bills and we worked with Steve Baum, and those responsibilities went upstairs to Steve's secretary. So now what I have left? Well, I have the Mammoth Service Department budget, and it's a sizable budget, and there's a lot of parts and pieces to it, but we felt that we had someone on staff that could do these jobs and do them very well. I, for one, as a service director and as a resident of Newark, I like more people being involved with budgets. So what we did over a year ago, we moved the service department budgets, and I worked with the mayor's secretary. And this way, there's always another set of eyes on the particular budget. Now, we could stand here and just enhance the mayor's secretary position, but in the future, a new mayor might not want to operate that way. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to create a new position. Once it's voted on, we'll promote from within, and we'll end up leaving the other position vacant. And obviously, I won't be filling the position that left my office vacant. There's additional cost of about $7,000, but there's a savings somewhere of around $65,000 when you put the two together. So we're asking you to create this position.
Are there any questions from the committee?
Sure.
Yes.
Are we going to vacate the other one?
Because the secretaries, we can, Doug, the one in my office, we can eliminate it if you like, and I can be here in 2 weeks to eliminate that.
That'd be great.
No problem.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Hall?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That eliminates Sherry Elkins'
Yes,
old position?
that's correct.
But it doesn't change Jennifer? She would be the...
She currently should be the mayor's secretary, that's correct.
Okay.
Until which time we'd move her into that new position, we'd vacate that position.
Okay, it's just a split of responsibilities?
Yes.
Because, okay.
Yeah, and it frankly puts another set of eyes on the service department's budget, which I think everybody would want. I mean, I think it's good. It's a good check and balance.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Lang, second by Hall. All those in favor, saying it's on the full council for a vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, I'll be in 2 weeks to eliminate that position. Fair enough. Thank you.
And that concludes this Personnel Committee meeting. Full council will begin at 7 p.m.